that button. Okay, and cool. Alright. What the hell happened to Kanye West? Just a few months ago, Forbes announced that the artist had officially become a billionaire, now claiming the same title his old mentor had claimed just a year prior. Yet, Kanye finds himself amidst a slew of controversy and chaos. He announced his official run for presidency, held an interesting rally in Charleston, South Carolina, went on a manic tweeting spree, making wild statements about his children, his wife, his mother-in-law. It all ultimately led to him receiving a visit from Dave Chappelle. So how did we get here? What happened to Kanye West? If you've been alive for the past 10 plus years, then you've probably heard his name in the tabloids or on the news at least once. Kanye West is no stranger to controversy, and he's not averse to speaking his mind. Do you guys remember the incident during the Hurricane Katrina celebrity event with Mike Myers where he said this?
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
Then in 2008, he stated that he'd go down in history as the voice of this generation. This statement ultimately leading to South Park's Fish Sticks episode. Then in 2009, we have the infamous Taylor Swift incident.
Yo, Taylor, I'm really happy for you. I'm gonna let you finish. But Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time.
All these instances spawn from Kanye West never hesitating to speak his mind and share his piece, no matter how inappropriate it may be. In fact, the whole first decade of Kanye's career was spent with him getting press because of his outbursts at award shows. It was so bad that Wikipedia actually had to make a section just for his outburst at award shows. I mean, even Obama called him a jackass for his outburst against Taylor Swift.
The young lady seems like a perfectly nice person. She's getting her award. What's he doing up there? Why would he do that? He's a jackass.
I know that doesn't sound like a big deal now considering our current president, but there was a point in time where it was abnormal for an American president to speak out so candidly about a public figure. Then back in 2016, we had him not only defending Bill Cosby, but also stated during a concert that he would have voted for Donald Trump. And in that same concert, also speaking out against Jay-Z and Beyonce and alluding to them hiring a hitman for him.
Jay-Z, I know you got killers. Please don't send them at my head. Just call me.
Then in 2018, you had the whole slavery was a choice statement.
Slavery for 400 years? For 400 years? That sounds like a choice.
As well as a weird meeting with Donald Trump. Then in 2019, we had the controversial release of his Jesus is King album, and him making further radical statements regarding the Democratic Party and even speaking against the Plan B contraceptive. Fun fact, Forbes actually wrote an article regarding Kanye West becoming a billionaire and how he actually harassed them for months to claim that title, much like a certain president he previously idolized. They mentioned how there have only been 3 people in their 40-year history that have fixated on what Forbes estimates their net worth to be. Kanye and Donald Trump being 2 of them. They further alluded to Kanye's affinity for Trump and even brought up their informal Trump rule and how they had to apply it to Kanye as well. Another fun fact, did you guys know that Kanye West owns a tank? Neither here nor there, but I had no clue until I started recording this video and it just blew my mind. Now, remember what I said about the concert in 2016? Alright, that's actually an important event because that was the precursor for Kanye ultimately being hospitalized for a psychiatric emergency and ultimately being diagnosed as bipolar. During that outburst, he spoke out against Jay-Z and Beyonce, who he was on rocky terms with at the time, possibly due to them not attending his wedding in 2014. Kanye stated later in an interview with TMZ that he was actually struggling with an opioid addiction as a result of liposuction surgery.
2 days before I was in the hospital, I was on opioids. I was addicted to opioids. I had plastic surgery because I was trying to look good for y'all. Because I didn't want y'all to call me fat like y'all called Rob at the wedding and made him fly home before me and Kim got married. I didn't want y'all to call me fat, so I got liposuction.
But the important question to ask regarding his outburst at the concert is, why did it happen? What caused it? And simply the answer is that his wife was robbed in a hotel in Paris shortly before that concert, and he was clearly shaken up by it.
The situation with my wife in Paris and all of the elements of like you feeling like you know, helpless. You're feeling like, what can you do? I went to Paris on that trip to protect her.
In 2015, we had the birth of his second child, Satan West, as well as him going headfirst into multiple business ventures. He became a shareholder in Jay-Z's streaming platform Tidal, as well as his launch of the clothing line and shoe line, Yeezy. In 2013, we had the birth of his first child, Northwest, as well as the release of his sixth album, Yeezus. In addition, we had him facing criminal charges for assaulting the paparazzi. He also faced backlash for performing in Kazakhstan at the authoritarian president's grandson's wedding. He also caught flack for some anti-Semitic remarks that he made while describing some of the reasons he thinks that President Obama had difficulty pushing policies on Capitol Hill. Before that, we have his mother passing in 2007. A lot of fans will tell you the same thing. Kanye ain't been the same since his mother died. Kanye was raised by a single mom and doesn't have any notable relationship with his father or distant family, and he doesn't have any siblings. The loss of his mother is not something to be taken lightly. He essentially lost his whole family in one fell swoop. He then poured all of his energy during that time into 808s and Heartbreak, as well as My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. You know what else happened in the years following his mother's passing? The Taylor Swift incident, as well as his relationship with Amber Rose. And the fallout after that breakup was a messy and confusing one, involving Wiz Khalifa and buttholes, and it's a lot. So when we look back on Kanye's life of controversy, we actually notice a very obvious trend. Aside from his outburst during the Katrina celebrity event, a lot of the controversy he finds himself in is actually directly tied towards incredibly eventful and stressful periods in his life. During this time, you have his mother passing, him becoming a father and a husband, pursuing new business ventures, and then having his wife being robbed, on top of having to, go on tour and release new albums. It all makes sense that he kind of has these outbursts. In addition, we've watched as the controversies increase in frequency and severity as the years progress, possibly lining up in tandem with the progression of his mental illness, as well as the slow chipping away at his previously established support structure.
Because I always feel like, man, I'm out here in Hollywood. I'm out here like, my mom's passed. I don't know who I can trust. I don't trust nobody.
So now that we have all the context, let's get into the nitty-gritty of bipolar disorder. I'm going to go ahead and preface this with, I'm not a mental health expert, nor am I a medical expert, so please take everything I say with a grain of salt. I'm pretty sure there's going to be somebody that corrects me, but nonetheless. Bipolar disorder is a mental disorder that causes unusual shifts in mood, energy, activity levels, concentration, and the ability to carry out day-to-day tasks. There have been so many instances of people talking about Kanye and his work ethic being on a different level. I mean, you can listen to this clip of RZA talking about how it felt to work on Kanye's album, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy.
He goes to the studio and he stays there from 4, and when I was there, we left at 4, so 12 hours of in the studio work. Then go to bed, get up, and do it again the next day.
It would be unsurprising to find out that Kanye was actually going through manic episodes during the production of multiple albums. Staying in the studio for ridiculously long hours, staying up for days at a time, having a million different ideas all at once, all things that under normal circumstances may be obvious symptoms but are masked because he's known as an eccentric artist. In addition, Kanye has stated on multiple occasions that he struggles with medication compliance because he feels like it inhibits his creative ability. Even stating in one tweet, I cannot be on meds and make Watch the Throne level or dark fantasy level music. This is a sentiment that's shared by many creatives that suffer from mental illness, but it's not exclusive to them. Anyone that has to take long-term medical therapy for chronic illnesses will tell you how much they hate having to take medications. Even for chronic illnesses outside of mental illness, taking medication constantly Even for chronic illnesses outside of mental illness, taking medications constantly serve as a reminder that you're not normal. You already know that you're plagued by an illness that's no fault of your own, and you deeply wish you could be normal, but there's nothing you can do about it. Even with medications making you normal to friends and family, you know that you can't do it without medical intervention, and that feeling sucks. So I can't really blame him for not wanting to take his medications, especially while working on an album. So when you look at the timing of his outbursts on Twitter, you'll see that they constantly coincide with the time that he's working on releasing an album. For years, people have been saying that he's utilizing controversy to build hype and generate sales, and I'd be lying if I didn't say that I think there's some truth to it. But I think the more honest answer would simply be that he's off his medications while he's producing an album and he's not acting rationally. You throw in the fact that we know stress can exacerbate mental illness, and you get this. But after all is said and done, Kanye has still said some very reckless and harmful things. And as someone who used to be a diehard fan, I still struggle today to separate the man from the music. I struggle to separate the artist from the illness. And looking back with a more understanding and open mind, I don't believe that Kanye ever had any malintent with his actions. His mission has always been to change the world for the better. But does that mean that we have to excuse his actions? Or does it mean that he shouldn't be held accountable for the things that he says? No, not at all. Even through all of his struggles and battles with mental illness, he still holds responsibility for the pain that he causes to those around him. I think Dave Chappelle coming out to him in Wyoming should be a wake-up call to Kanye. That it may be time to step away from Hollywood and focus on his art. He's got plans for his ranches and building a campus revolving around artistic expression and enlightenment, and I think now is the best time for him to retire from the spotlight and channel his energy into that. Be a mentor to artists and provide them the tools and the outlet to affect change on the world in his vision. I know it's antithetical to who he is as a person, someone who chases for validation and fame and glory, but it's getting to a point where people struggle to see the message because the message is constantly being clouded and muddied by his illness. And in that failure to effectively deliver his message, he's hurting people along the way. So, what happened to Kanye West? A lot of things, actually. A lot more than most people will ever experience in multiple lifetimes. He's suffering from mental illness while having his illness being exacerbated by life events and being a public figure in the entertainment industry. Mental illness is just that, an illness. Sometimes people are afflicted by terminal illnesses, and even the best support structure and best medicine isn't sufficient enough to save them, and sometimes just let them live a normal life. Based off of what I know and what I've seen, I don't think Kanye lacks the adequate support structure now, and I don't think that he lacks adequate medical treatment. I think that there are simply some illnesses that make it incredibly hard for some people to live a normal life. The unfortunate thing for him and his family is that he is a public figure, and the outbreaks of his illness get broadcast to the world to see and played back to them on a 24-hour news cycle.
You get exhausted up there.
So you was mentally exhausted, emotionally exhausted, physically exhausted, everything.
Yeah. Fine. Yeah.
Did you go to therapy at all? Because I feel like this is a lot to unpack. And I'm sure you're the go-to guy for a lot of people. So it's like, who does the go-to guy go to? So I'm sure you had to go to some therapy or something.
Nah, I use the world as my therapy.